The Giant's Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland is one of the UK's outstanding natural features. Its steep cliffs and deep bays form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The moving stone door in Ireland was finally opened, and what came out is disturbing. At Giant's Causeway on the northern coast of Ireland, a drone camera captured something that should not exist: a 20-ton slab of basalt, part of a cliff face that geologists have studied carefully for over a century, swinging open like a door on a hinge. Behind it was pure darkness. Today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway. 11 seconds later, it sealed shut so perfectly that no crack, no gap, and no seam remained. When researchers aimed ground-penetrating radar at that exact section of rock, what they found inside changed everything they believed about this coastline, and about what may have been waiting inside it. The scientists who ran those scans have since resigned, refused to sign official reports, and gone completely silent. One of them said just 4 words before walking off the site and not answering her phone for 3 weeks. "I have seen enough." This is what they found. The footage. It was a Tuesday evening last autumn. Kieran Doyle, a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin, had driven up specifically for the weather. Clear skies, calm sea, good light for a coastal shot. He wasn't chasing legends. He'd done this exact trip 100 times. Fly the drone, capture the cliffs, post the best frame, drive home. The video showed a slab of basalt, roughly the size of a transit van, pushing outward from the rock face. Smooth, deliberate, almost mechanical. 11 seconds. Then the stone returned with surgical precision. No crack, no gap, no seam. He almost didn't post it. He thought the drone had glitched or the light was playing tricks. But he could see the shadow shifting behind the slab. Something had been opened back there. He uploaded it that night. By morning, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Here's the catch. One researcher who saw that footage already had 15 years of data, saying what Doyle filmed was physically impossible. One figure would eventually go missing from inside that rock, but nobody knew that yet. The only question was, what was behind the door? The geologist who couldn't dismiss it. Geologists, journalists, university researchers, all of them demanding to know one thing. Was it real, or was it fake? One of those calls came from Dr. Sarah Brennan, a senior geologist at Queen's University Belfast, who had studied the Antrim basalt formations for over 15 years. She's not someone who chases viral videos. She's published dozens of papers on volcanic rock structures across the North Atlantic. When colleagues forwarded her the clip, she nearly dismissed it outright. Then she watched it a second time, then a third. She called Doyle directly, told him point blank either his footage broke every known rule of geology or it was the most sophisticated hoax she'd ever seen. She drove to the site the next day to find out which. Here's what makes that significant. The Giant's Causeway is one of the most studied coastlines on Earth. A stretch of northern Irish shoreline made up of roughly 40,000 interlocking hexagonal basalt columns formed about 60 million years ago when lava exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit filled the valley and cooled into eerily perfect geometric pillars. Local legend says a giant named Finn McCool built them as a bridge to Scotland. In all those centuries of study, all those geological surveys and ground scans, nobody had ever detected a single hollow space inside these cliffs. No ancient text mentioned a hidden door. No legend even hinted at one. Brennan herself had scanned sections of that coastline dozens of times and found nothing but solid rock every single time. And this is where it gets strange. What she found when she aimed her radar at that cliff is something she still can't discuss without her voice changing. 2 members of her initial research team resigned within the first week. And the image that loaded on her screen that morning, standing alone at the cliff face, Atlantic wind cutting sideways, would be the last thing she ever officially reported. What the radar found, Dr. Brennan set up her ground-penetrating radar at the exact coordinates from Doyle's footage early the next morning. She calibrated the sensors, aimed the antenna at the cliff, started the scan, and waited. What came up on her screen made her stop moving entirely. Her field assistant later said he thought the equipment had malfunctioned. She wasn't writing notes. She wasn't adjusting settings. She stood there, eyes locked on the display for nearly 2 full minutes, completely silent, just staring. Here's what the radar showed: a massive hollow chamber hidden inside what every geologist on Earth had assumed was completely solid basalt, 12 feet deep, 26 feet wide. A sealed room with no entrance and no exit that any instrument had ever detected. That alone should have been impossible. But what the scan detected inside that room made the chamber itself feel like a footnote. 7 tall figures standing upright in the dark, each one between 7 and 8 feet in height, positioned in precise formation, spaced exactly 4 feet apart. And every single one of them was facing the stone door. Not randomly arranged, not collapsed, not scattered like debris, standing in rows facing the way out. Here's the deal. Basalt doesn't form around standing objects. It's cooled lava, not sedimentary rock that builds up slowly over time. The only way those figures could be inside that rock is if they were already in position when the lava was still liquid, still burning at over 2,000 degrees. Which means they have been sealed in there since the eruption that created the Giant's Causeway 60 million years ago. Humans wouldn't exist for another 59 million years. Whatever those 7 things are, they were standing in that formation before anything resembling a person ever walked this planet. And one of them, as researchers would discover 4 days later, was already gone. If you want to know what the thermal scans revealed and what happened when the door's movement was tracked in real time, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because the next update on this story changes everything. The second scan. The next morning, a geophysicist named Dr. Ian Gallagher arrived from Belfast with more advanced scanning equipment. Gallagher specializes in subsurface imaging, reading what's buried beneath rock, soil, ocean floor. He's mapped underground river systems across northern Europe and worked on deep crust surveys for the Irish government. He was methodical, professional, calm. The kind of calm that comes from decades of looking at underground images and never once being surprised. 20 minutes after starting his scan, he set his tablet down on a rock and stepped away from it. He walked a small circle, rubbed the back of his neck, then came back and looked at the screen again. Here's what nobody expected. His higher resolution scan revealed that the 7 figures weren't solid stone. They were hollow shells, thin outer casings with empty interiors. Like cocoons, like pods. Something had once been alive inside each one, or maybe still was. The shell material defied identification. Whatever it was made of shouldn't have survived contact. With molten lava. Nothing organic withstands those temperatures. Nothing synthetic should either. Not for that duration, not under that pressure. Yet, there they were, intact and structurally sound, inside rock that had been liquid fire when the dinosaurs were still dying out. And this is where it gets strange. Within 48 hours, government agencies were quietly notified. Encrypted emails, closed-door briefings. The site Dr. Brennan had spent her entire career studying was about to be taken away from her. And no one was going to explain why. The cover-up. An environmental agency team arrived within 48 hours and issued a statement almost immediately. The drone footage was a trick of light reflecting off wet basalt. No chamber existed. No anomalies had been detected. The area was perfectly normal. Here's the catch. Their own lead consultant, Dr. Brennan herself, the person they'd contracted to verify the site, refused to sign that report. She read the draft statement twice and pushed it back across the table without picking up a pen. Colleagues say she reviewed the raw sonar data one final time on her laptop, went completely white, closed the screen, submitted her resignation the following week. Her letter was 4 sentences long. The last one read, "I have seen enough." The agency moved fast after that. Heavy steel barriers, bright yellow warning signs. Official reason, coastal erosion, falling rock hazard, standard safety closure. Walk past those barriers today, and a park ranger will give you the same story without blinking. It's a good cover, simple, boring, the kind of thing nobody asks follow-up questions about. But everyone who had seen those scans knew exactly why that cliff was suddenly off-limits. Now, here's where it gets really unsettling. Before the research team was formally ordered off the site, Brennan managed to return one more time, 4 days after the original scan. Standard scientific procedure. A comparative scan to confirm the data. She expected everything to look identical. She was hoping it would. She wanted to believe the first scan was a glitch, an artifact of unusual mineral density, something that would dissolve under a second look. When the new image loaded, she grabbed the edge of the equipment case to steady herself. One of the figures was gone. Only 6 remained. The stone door had not opened, not once. Doyle, sensing the significance of his original footage, had mounted a motion-activated camera aimed directly at the rock face the day after his recording. It ran 24 hours a day for all 4 days. 0 movement on the exterior. Not a tremor, not a vibration. The door stayed sealed the entire time. Yet inside that locked chamber, one 7-foot-tall figure had simply vanished. No dust, no debris, no crack, no tunnel, no displacement in the surrounding stone, no trace of any kind. And get this, the remaining 6 didn't react. They didn't scatter. They didn't shift away from the spot where the 7th had been standing. They just kept standing there in the darkness facing the door, as if the departure was expected, as if it was simply the first one to leave. They're warm, and they have heartbeats. Dr. Niamh Callahan, a thermal imaging specialist from University College Dublin, was brought in to check for volcanic heat sources or underground water that might explain the anomalous readings. Routine diagnostic work. She'd done this dozens of times on geothermal sites across Iceland and the Azores. She expected a hot spring, a magma pocket, maybe a buried water channel. Something boring, something explainable. It was a freezing March morning. Air temperature, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The cliff face rock, equally cold, nothing unusual. Then she aimed the thermal camera at the chamber location. The screen flooded orange and red. Inside that sealed room, the 6 remaining figures were radiating heat at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Not close to human body temperature. That is human body temperature, the exact internal core reading of a healthy living person. Here's the thing. There is no mechanism in geology or thermodynamics that explains how anything stays that warm inside cold stone for even a century, let alone millions of years. Heat dissipates, always. It radiates outward and fades. That's not a theory. That's a fundamental law of physics. Sealed inside freezing basalt surrounded by Atlantic Ocean air. Anything warm should have reached equilibrium with the surrounding rock within days, not millions of years. Days. Callahan recalibrated, swapped the batteries, repositioned the camera, ran the scan from 3 different door angles. Every time, 99 degrees, steady, unmistakable. She borrowed a second thermal unit from Gallagher's kit and ran the whole sequence again on different hardware. Same result. She turned to her colleagues and asked, dead serious, if they were playing a prank on her. When she saw their faces, pale, tight-lipped, nobody laughing, she understood they weren't. She packed her gear without saying another word and didn't respond to a single email or phone call for 3 weeks. When she finally replied, it was one line. I need more time to process what I saw. But here's what nobody expected. The team had also installed vibration sensors along the rock face. What those sensors picked up might be the most disturbing detail in this entire story. A rhythmic pulse repeating every 4 seconds, consistent, steady, never varying. One senior researcher, choosing his words very carefully, admitted on record that the pattern was indistinguishable from a slow heartbeat. Thermal readings weren't stable either. They'd spike above 100 degrees with no external trigger, then settle back to 99. The fluctuations didn't match tides, weather, or any known geological cycle. The team ran correlations against barometric pressure, lunar phases, seismic activity across the North Atlantic. Nothing matched. The heat was behaving independently, autonomously. Whatever was generating it was coming from inside those hollow shells. They are moving toward the door. Every 72 hours, the team ran a fresh scan. Every time, the situation got worse. The 6 remaining figures were changing positions, a few inches at a time, barely perceptible between individual scans, but consistently and directionally, always in the same direction. They were no longer in that precise military formation. They had clustered together and were shifting steadily toward the sealed stone door, slowly, deliberately, like something waking from a very long sleep and deciding it was time to leave. The researchers overlaid the positional data from every 72-hour scan onto a single composite image. When they saw the trajectory mapped out, 6 data points, a clear, unbroken path toward the exit, nobody in the room said anything for a long time. And get this, these things have been locked inside volcanic rock since before mammals existed. They've outlived every species, every civilization, every empire that ever rose and fell on the surface above them. For tens of millions of years, they didn't move. They stayed in formation, patient, still. Now, in our lifetime, they're heading for the door. Meanwhile, over 1 million tourists visit the Giant's Causeway every year. Families walk those black stones with their children. They take selfies. They hear guides talk about Finn McCool. They have no idea what's really behind that cliff face. No idea that 39 feet behind the rock, 6 entities are radiating body heat into cold stone and inching toward a door that has already opened once. And somewhere out there, moving through a world that doesn't know it exists, the one that already left is still unaccounted for. The suppression. Dr. Brennan, despite her resignation, attempted to go public. She spent months compiling everything. The thermal data, the heartbeat patterns, the positional shifts, the shell composition analysis. She wrote a formal paper, had it peer-reviewed by 2 trusted colleagues who confirmed her methodology was sound, and submitted it to Ireland's Geological Review Board. The board rejected it immediately. Faulty equipment, flawed methodology, insufficient evidence, case closed. Here's the catch. A colleague on that board contacted her privately. Off the record, burner phone. The real reason had nothing to do with her science. If the public learned that biological heat signatures and rhythmic pulses had been detected inside ancient basalt, it would crack the foundation of everything we know about the history of life on Earth. Every textbook rewritten, every timeline shattered, every assumption about when intelligence first appeared on this planet thrown out the window. In April, all monitoring equipment was quietly removed from the site. The researchers were told plainly, stay silent or your careers are finished. But they couldn't destroy all of it. The evidence survives. Siren Doyle still has his original drone footage on 3 hard drives stored in separate locations across Dublin. He checks them weekly. He told a close friend that he sleeps differently now. Lighter, more alert. Like something in his brain shifted the night he watched that stone move and never fully shifted back. The researchers who worked the site, Brennan, Gallagher, Callahan, and at least 2 other team members, kept personal copies of everything. Sonar data, thermal logs, vibration recordings, positional scans. All of it saved on encrypted drives where no agency can reach without a warrant, the one that's already out there. The last scan before the equipment was pulled showed the 6 figures still moving, still pulsing, still warm. The one closest to the door was only a few feet from the stone entrance, and its rhythmic heartbeat was measurably stronger than the week before. Getting louder, getting faster, as if it could sense how close it was to the way out. But the question keeping every one of these researchers awake at night isn't about the 6 still inside. It's about the one that already came out. When they first scanned that chamber, there were 7 figures. Now there are 6. One is gone. It didn't break through the stone. It didn't open the door. It didn't leave a tunnel, a crack, a scratch, or a single grain of displaced dust. It simply wasn't there anymore. So, where is it now? Somewhere beneath the Atlantic, drifting through cave systems stretching for miles under the Irish seabed, hidden in an unexplored cavern along the coast, buried inside another cliff face nobody has thought to scan, or somewhere else entirely, beneath a city, inside a mountain, moving through spaces we've never thought to look. And get this, the remaining 6 didn't flinch when the 7th disappeared. They didn't scatter. They didn't rearrange. They just kept moving toward the door, patiently, steadily, as if the departure was expected, as if it was simply the first one to leave, as if they're all just waiting their turn. We've spent our entire existence believing we were the first intelligent things to walk this planet. These figures say otherwise. Something was here long before us, sealed in stone, radiating warmth, pulsing with a rhythm that sounds exactly like breathing. And it's been waiting inside the rock, while every civilization we've ever built rose and fell on the surface above it. Doctor. Brennan said something recently, off the record, to one of the few people she still trusts. She said, "We treat ancient history like something dead, something we dig up and put behind glass. But what if it isn't dead? What if it's just been sleeping? And what if it's finally waking up?" Right now, 6 figures stand facing a stone door inside the cliffs at the Giant's Causeway. Their heartbeats are getting stronger. Their heat signatures are climbing. They're inches from the exit. And the 7th is already out there somewhere, moving through a world that doesn't know it exists. Do you think those 6 figures are still behind that door? Or have more already gotten out? Tell me what you think in the comments. And subscribe and hit the bell, because when the next scan comes back, we'll be the first ones to tell you where it went.